When thinking of a pop culture icon, what comes to mind? For me, Godzilla comes to mind. Godzilla has been around since 1954 and throughout his career has made over 40 movies and has been around so long that practically everyone knows who he is. It's hard to find someone who doesn't know who Godzilla is. And with all this success comes merchandise. And merchandise in a lot of ways, from DVDs to VHS tapes to board games to apparel, to even action figures, and that is what we are here to discuss today. See, Godzilla has had a multitude of action figures dating all the way back to the 1990s in America when we got the Trendmasters Godzilla toy line.
Godzilla battles SpaceGodzilla, the ultimate enemy. As the Godzilla wars continue, whole cities are toppled by Godzilla. Whipping tails, ripping claws, and flashing eyes leave a path of destruction. But who will triumph? Godzilla, Gigan, and SpaceGodzilla from Trendmasters.
Which was the first time most of the Godzilla cast was in action figure form. But ever since, there have been other toy lines here and there, the most famous of which being the Bandai Creation Monster series, which are Bandai vinyls, as the fandom calls them. Those figures are pretty great, as they have very accurate sculpts, but they lack a lot in articulation, as they have squishy bodies that don't allow for much movement besides basic swivel joints. But then one day, around the time that the fourth MonsterVerse movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, was coming out, Playmates, company most known for the Ninja Turtles, has acquired the license, and they created two different toy lines, the Japanese side and the American side. And today we are going to take a look at both, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the video as we catalog all their figures that they've created. So Playmates got the license for Godzilla figures in 2020, around the time that promotion for Godzilla vs. Kong would start ramping up, and the figures were designed to hype up the movie. Japanese figures released first, so that's what we'll be covering. Wave 1 of the Japanese figures consists of Godzilla from 2004, Godzilla from 2016, SpaceGodzilla, DESTROYAH, and Gigan from 2004. There was also an 11-inch Final Wars Godzilla, which is also Godzilla 2004. Then there was also two Kong figures, both from Skull Island, but one at 11-inch and one at 6-inch. We'll be taking a look at each of them individually, but let's start with the 11 inches. Let's start with 2004 Godzilla, who does look pretty good. As you can see, the packaging here is pretty nice looking, though strangely familiar to this Bandai version. In fact, come to think of it, Godzilla 11-inch 2004 was in that lineup, and oh my god, they look almost identical. Yikes. Might be a case of plagiarism. But, I mean, there's some differences in, like, paint and stuff. Articulations are basically the same, though. Yeah, not sure what to say. If you like Godzilla 2004 and you want an 11-inch version, it works. As for Kong, he is much more unique, as there was no Kong mold to rip off, and he looks pretty good. Brown's a little weird shade, though, but he looks pretty well, and his box is similar to Godzilla 2004's, which is nice for consistency's sake. Articulation is still about the same, though, despite this not ripping off a Bandai vinyl mold. And also, these figures use plastic and not vinyl material, so they could have threw in a lot more articulation, but they just didn't. Now, as for the 6-inch version, it's basically the same, except the head is much worse. It looks just like a generic gorilla. There's nothing that really screams Kong about it to me. Though, it did get a re-release eventually with much better paint apps, so I'd recommend that one if you really want this, but it's kind of outdated, and I'll explain why later in the video. As for the other 6-inch figures, up first we got SpaceGodzilla, and oh my god, that looks really bad. What is with his face? Oh man, and the articulation still is not great, because, surprise, it's a copy of a Bandai vinyl, but I don't know what the heck they did. The Bandai vinyl looks really great, and this looks really bad. I say avoid this one. Just get the Bandai vinyl. It might be more expensive, but the quality is vast. Thankfully, though, Destroyah is a much better figure. Actually, I'd say he looks pretty good, which is nice. He also is not a copy of the Bandai vinyl mold. As you can see, the wings are especially different, as this figure actually has the two lower wings, which is missing on the vinyl. And that makes this one actually pretty good. Combine that with the arm articulation that this figure has, I'd say it might be better than the Bandai vinyl. At least in terms of functionality, in terms of looks, I'd still say the Bandai vinyl is a bit superior. But still, neither are that bad in this case. I recommend it if you don't have a Bandai vinyl of him. However, I think the best figure of this wave is definitely Gigan 2004, as he looks really great. No caveats here. Even the paint looks pretty good, though compared to the Bandai vinyl, while the molds are very similar, there is slight differences, and one of those differences is especially the paint. Bandai vinyl is far superior in that regard, but Playmates honestly doesn't look so bad. I wouldn't mind owning him if I can track him down, so I'd definitely say he's the best of the first wave. But there is still one left to cover, and ooh, not looking forward to that one. Well, no sense in delaying it. This Shin Godzilla, or Godzilla 2016, is by far the worst figure in this entire line. Like, SpaceGodzilla was bad, but he wasn't this bad. Just oh my god, look at his face. What is this expression? What is that trying to convey? Even his posture looks weird. And this is not a knockoff of the, like, Bandai vinyl. No, they are nothing alike. This is a knockoff, like, mold copy of the Shin Godzilla from NECA Toys. And you look at the night and day difference. And NECA had like a ton of articulation. This figure removed almost all of it. And it looks like a bootleg. Like, that's all it looks like. It looks like something you'd buy from the dollar store. Except actual Shin Godzilla NECA bootlegs look a lot better than this. Avoid. Just do not buy this at all. God, what a really awkward first wave. So yeah, that first wave was pretty bad actually, with like one good figure in it. So Playmates had a very interesting solution going forward, which I'll now explain. The first thing they did was take their Final Wars Godzilla and shrink him down to the 6-inch scale. They also messed up his face very badly, so good job Playmates. You took one of your good figures and made it really bad. Following this, however, we got them being even more shameless in a way, as we got 4 reissues of Bandai vinyl figures. So let's take a look at the 4 they picked. Let's start with Godzilla 2000, or Godzilla 1999 as the package says. Now this figure is exactly identical to the Bandai vinyl, and I have that vinyl, and it's a decent vinyl. Not much articulation, but that's pretty standard for vinyls. Like I said, if you missed out on the original, this is a great one to grab. As for Godzilla 1954, this one I do not own, but it still looks pretty good overall, and yeah, it's because it's from Bandai, not Playmates themselves. As for the villain kaiju, starting with King Ghidorah 2001, which was technically a good guy, but we'll count him as a villain. This was a bad choice to copy over, as this figure has basically no movement. Your wings can rotate, your tail rotates, but that's it. It's basically a statue. I would have preferred any other King Ghidorah mold over this one. However, on the flip side, Mechagodzilla 1974 was a perfect choice for this line, as he not only looks amazing, he also poses really well for a vinyl, having 6 total points of movement: head, shoulders, waist, and legs. So you should definitely grab him in this line or the vinyl. And at some point, a Godzilla 1968 got added. It's identical to the Bandai vinyl like the others, and I don't own it, so yeah, let's see what they do next for this line. So yeah, with Wave 1 being god-awful and Wave 2 being nothing but reissues, it was clear that something needed to change, and thankfully, our third wave was when they started to try a lot harder than they did previously. Wave 3 only has 2 figures, so we'll start with Burning Godzilla, and yeah, that looks a lot nicer. This actually looks halfway decent, and strangely, it's not even a mold copy of either the Bandai vinyl or the Mechagodzilla. So I would say if you're in the market for a Burning Godzilla, this is the one to track down for cheap, but still the vinyls are probably better, honestly, still. However, the second figure was very exciting, as it was Jet Jaguar, who is a very obscure kaiju, but everyone in the fandom loves him, so it was nice to see him get created. And also, it's a completely unique mold from Bandai, which is a big plus. Loved it so much I actually bought it. And yeah, as we can see, the articulation is pretty standard for vinyls, but it works, even though this is still plastic. But yeah, I actually recommend this if you're in the market for a Jet Jaguar, or just get the vinyl as the color is still better. Jet Jaguar was clearly a sign of things to come, as the next figure was another obscure kaiju. Well, design-wise, it's Rodan 1956 from his own solo film. And yeah, this actually looks really great, but sadly looks is the problem, as he only rotates at the neck. But he is a completely unique mold. I won't show comparisons anymore, as they are all unique from here on, for the most part. So yeah, I definitely recommend it if you want a cheap Rodan 1956, as his vinyl is a lot of money lately. However, it was Gorosaurus 1968 that got everybody excited, as this figure was thought to be cancelled because he was shown off with a Burning Godzilla prototype back in 2020, but didn't release until late 2021. But thank God he did, because he looks amazing. In fact, I'd say he even looks better than the Bandai vinyl that was out at the time. As for the articulation, it's also very improved from the standards, having 6 points of movement, which is not amazing by modern action figure standards, but considering it's supposed to be with like a Bandai vinyl, it's pretty great and far succeeds the Bandai vinyl. And yeah, I'd say Gorosaurus is the one to definitely pick up if you only want one of these Japanese Bandai vinyl figures. And with that was it for the Classic Series packaging. As after this, they updated the packaging into something more unique, so let's take a look at that wave up now. The rebrand was named the Toho series, and it mostly consisted of reissues from past figures, including the ones we just looked at. However, Shin Godzilla was absent, and that is because they actually remade him from the ground up, and yeah, that is a big night and day difference compared to the original. The articulation is also pretty similar to the original, though. But still, for something that's meant to be in scale with like Bandai vinyls, I'd say it's pretty alright. So yeah, definitely happy that they remade Shin Godzilla. This actually looks halfway decent. Still probably not as good as the Bandai vinyls, but I was happy with it. That's why I purchased it. And yeah, I'm happy they realized their mistakes and are showing that they want to improve. But sadly, there wasn't much time left to improve, unfortunately. The final wave consists of an 11-inch 1954 Godzilla, which was the first 11-inch in a while, and it's probably the only 11-inch 1954 Godzilla that I'm aware of. But we also got Godzilla I don't know how to say that. It's from the Godzilla Singular Point anime, and it looks pretty good for what it is. Same thing with the Godzilla Ultima. I've never watched the show, so I'm not familiar with these Godzilla forms. But sadly, the last figure they released was one of their best, and it was 1965 Baragon. And yeah, this looks really good, just like their Gorosaurus, and it's a very obscure kaiju that doesn't have a ton of merch. So it is nice to see them end on a high note like that. But yeah, Playmates decided to cancel the Toho series in spring of 2022, and I'm sad to see it go, but they had other priorities, and we're going to talk about those priorities right now. So yeah, starting in late 2020, early 2021, Playmates began to create figures for the Godzilla vs. Kong movie that was just coming out at the time. Starting with Godzilla himself, and oh boy did you have options. The standard version had clear blue spines, while there was also the radio tower version, which had a slightly different paint job and painted spines. There was the Hong Kong Battle Godzilla, which was mostly clear blue plastic, but with some purple paint on it. There was also the Godzilla x Kong New Empire figure, which is the same as the standard Godzilla vs. Kong figure, but they've added more paint on it and got rid of the transparent spines. Then there was the Energized Godzilla from Godzilla x Kong New Empire, which is the same Godzilla figure, but now with a lot of more blue on him. And finally, just released, is the Burning Godzilla, which is mostly clear red. So yeah, that's a lot of mold repaints for Godzilla, but how is the figure itself? Well, every figure in the Godzilla vs. Kong portion of the line does have a battle damage removal gimmick, but later figures do not. Starting with the Energized Godzilla, they got rid of the battle damage gimmick for the Godzilla mold. As for the articulation, the head does not move at all. It feels like it should, but it doesn't. The jaw articulates, the arms rotate, the legs rotate, the feet do not rotate, even though they look like they should, and part of the tail moves. So pretty standard for like a vinyl Godzilla. But yeah, I'd say the Godzilla mold is pretty decent. If I had to choose one, I'd recommend you guys get the new Empire Basic Godzilla, as it has the most paint on it. But any of them were fine. As you saw, mine was the Hong Kong Battle Godzilla, just repainted to look a little different, to try and match how the standard one looks. As for Kong, we have a few releases. The first one is the standard release with a screaming head and the battle axe. Then we have one with a neutral face and a fighter jet. We have the Hong Kong Battle Kong, which has the neutral face plus the battle axe, but with some purple and blue paint on it. And lastly, the Antarctic Kong, which has some snow painted on him and comes with an osprey. As for the battle damage, it is in one of his shoulders, and as for the articulation, it's actually really good. The head swivels, the universal shoulder joints, elbow joint, wrist swivel, leg movement, and knee movement. Not the best articulation ever, but hey, it's better than everything else that Playmates has done so far. So yeah, the Kong's pretty good. I actually really recommend him as a nice cheap Kong figure you can grab. Also part of the first wave assortment, we have the Skullcrawler in their first ever action figure ever, and yeah, this looks really good. They include the heave ship, and their battle damage is on their back. As for the articulation, the head does not rotate, but the jaw opens, we have universal shoulders, elbow joints, and a tail rotation. Not the most posable, but these things don't really have the best designs to lend themselves to like high posability. You get enough here, and I honestly recommend them as they are very cool, and it was a very monumental occasion for Playmates to make a kaiju that didn't have any merch at all. The following figure is in a similar boat to the Skullcrawler, as it is the Warbat, another kaiju created for the Monsterverse that didn't have any merch prior to this. And you know what? It looks pretty good. It comes with an Osprey helicopter, that's nice. It has battle damage in one of its wings or furls, something like that. So yeah, it's pretty good, but unfortunately the articulation is where it fails, as the jaw can open and close, the wings flail a bit, and the waist turns and the tail moves, but that's about it. You can't really change this guy's pose. He's mostly just a statue, but as statues go, it's a pretty cool looking statue, so definitely grab one if you like this design. Before we move on to the other kaiju, we also got this supercharged Godzilla variant that comes with a fighter jet. It's in a very upright pose. The articulation is the same as the standard, and so is the battle damage placement, but overall, I can't exactly see the need for this, and unless you really like this hyper-specific pose for Godzilla, I would recommend you skip it, honestly. Also, it looks like the Godzilla figure is originally called Godzilla Extreme, and I kind of wish they kept that, because that's actually a very funny name. However, the final figure for the Godzilla vs. Kong assortment is Mechagodzilla, here depicted with silver paint, red spines, and a heave ship. But there was also the Battle Mechagodzilla version, which came with dark gray metal paint, translucent red spines, the beam effect, and yeah, I prefer that. Both figures do have battle damage on the front of the chest, which is nice. As for the articulation, it's actually a bit better than Godzilla. The head still doesn't move, but the jaw opens wide. Shoulders actually have a universal joint. Legs have a universal joint, knees bend, ankles rotate, and tail rotates. So yeah, I actually really like their Battle Mechagodzilla. I recommend it over the originals, because the original is more movie-accurate color scheme, but this one's a much more unique color scheme that I think looks better on display. However, before we leave the Godzilla vs. Kong line, there is a couple more things I want to highlight that aren't part of the 6-inch assortment, but should still be mentioned.
Two titans face off for an epic battle. Godzilla, king of the monsters, versus Kong, the mighty titan. Battle Roar Godzilla and Battle Roar Kong, each sold separately.
So yeah, Battle Roar Godzilla and Kong exist. The Godzilla looks very similar to the supercharged Godzilla in terms of the pose, so this is probably the better version of that. Whereas Kong just looks kind of goofy. But yeah, not something to really consider unless you like having toys that make sound. The other thing worth mentioning are the giant 11-inch figures of Godzilla, Kong, and Mechagodzilla. They look almost identical to their 6-inch counterparts, though supposedly some articulation is different. But in case 11 inches weren't enough, we also got these 13-inch mega figures.
The battle is epic. Godzilla, king of the monsters, versus Kong the mighty. Now the battle royale begins. One will fall, but you get to choose. Mega Heat Ray Godzilla and Mega Punching Kong, available exclusively at Walmart and Walmart.com, each sold separately.
So yeah, Godzilla and Kong now feature lights and sounds, which is great to see, but they also feature action gimmicks. Godzilla has atomic breath fire through the push of a button, while Kong has a punching gimmick. It should also be noted that a Mechagodzilla was planned and shown off as a prototype, but we never released, unfortunately, and that very sucks because I really would have liked one. Following the Godzilla vs. Kong line, we got the MonsterVerse line, which has the MonsterVerse logo on the side, plus the film name that the character is from on the bottom left. As you can see, this is a Battle Roar Mechagodzilla. It is the same as the standard Mechagodzilla in terms of looks, but now features a battle roaring feature. As for new figures, up first we got City Destruction Godzilla, based on Godzilla 2014. As you can see, the battle damage has been moved to the side instead of the front, and also the figure comes with a tank. Now, the figure has some orange paint on him, and that is likely to replicate this Godzilla 2014 poster, where we see the orange flame on the body of Godzilla as it's emulating. As for the articulation, it is surprisingly better than the standard Godzilla, even though this is more pre-posed. The head fully rotates, mouth closes, arms rotate, legs rotate, the ankles actually move, and the tail even moves a bit, too. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite of the Playmates Godzilla figures that they've made. It's still not amazing articulation, but it looks really nice because the orange makes him look very distinct on a shelf, and also it's just a nice sculpt. And too bad they never repainted it into the standard colors, because I would have bought that too. Next was this ferocious Kong from Kong Skull Island. This figure includes a helicopter and a chain propeller, which is an awesome accessory. Now, the original release of this figure had some mud on the feet, but lately he's just been reissued to remove that and update the paint job. Both of them look fine, though. I like the mud because it's more distinct. The battle damage has been moved to the other shoulder, and as for his articulation, it's pretty similar to the first Kong we looked at, except they actually put in ankle swivels, which is a nice touch. So yeah, either version of this Kong are great. I personally say get whichever one you can find. Before moving on to new molds, we also had this Godzilla vs. Kong City Battle diorama playset, which features Godzilla and Kong with some fire painted on them, and a bunch of cardboard accessories that you can create a diorama display with. It's a neat little addition. I should also mention they were available in a 2-pack with all of the diorama stuff, if you just wanted the figures. Wave 2 would have featured this Godzilla and Kong Ocean Battle variants, which are the same figures but now shiny to represent them being in the water. Fortunately, they never came out. But don't get too sad, as instead we got Ultimate Titan King Ghidorah, who does not come with any accessories, but still does have the battle damage, and in fact this was the last new mold to feature the battle damage gimmick. The articulation is not the best, but it's alright. The heads are all on ball joints at the necks, and the head portions can rotate. The legs can kick, and the tails are on ball joints too. The wingspan, though, is what makes this figure very impressive. It is very long and big. I highly recommend it as a nice cheap Ghidorah figure to get. However, we got the weirdest thing. Godzilla and Kong Transformers.
Hello, Earth, home of the Titans. Godzilla. Kong. Now legends collide. With Monarch's incredible Titan tech armor, they transform, reconstruct, reshape to make them nearly invincible, transformed and ready for battle. Titan Tech Godzilla, Titan Tech Kong, more powerful, more ferocious than ever. The ultimate battle continues to evolve. Titan Tech Kong and Titan Tech Godzilla.
So, some backstory. During the Godzilla vs. Kong line, instead of the Mega Heat Ray Godzilla, we were originally going to get this transforming Godzilla, as you can see in the packaging here. But it didn't end up happening. So I guess eventually they decided, let's revisit that concept and throw Kong in as well. But that wasn't even the weirdest thing. Then they added a Rodan figure to the assortment. And the strange thing is that there is no other MonsterVerse Rodan from Playmates. You have to buy the Titan Tech version. And it's not really a great figure on its own, barely articulates, but the transforming is kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know what these are for. Kind of remind me of a thing that Trendmasters did back in the 90s with their Godzilla line.
Power Up Godzilla! The new Power Up Godzilla. You snap on invincible ultra armor and launch massive mega missiles to fight Power Up Mechagodzilla, Power Up Mechaghidorah, and Power Up Rodan. When Godzilla powers up, it's an all-out power struggle. All-out Godzilla war. Power Up Godzilla from Trendmasters. Action figures sold separately.
And And lastly, for the MonsterVerse branded stuff, we have the Hollow Earth diorama with the Godzilla and Kong with new paint. It's the same as the City Destruction set, but with different paint. So let's move on to the Godzilla Kong New Empire line. Beginning with Godzilla, the original Godzilla form was reissued, as I mentioned before, but as for his evolved form, we got the standard release. It looks pretty good, has no battle damage anymore, comes with the red atomic breath piece, and articulates basically identical to the previous Godzilla, except this leg, the ankles actually rotate this time, like the 2014 Godzilla. Now, this guy was also available in an 11-inch form, the 7-inch Battle Roar version, a 13-inch Mega Heat Ray again. This time, though, instead of a missile, it shoots mist out of its mouth. And strangest of all, Titan Evolution Godzilla, which is Godzilla rubber suit that it comes with that you peel back and unleash the evolved Godzilla. It's super weird. But that Godzilla actually has universal shoulder movement, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, I'd say stick with the standard for now. As for Kong, he now comes with the new heave ship design and also now has his glove on, like in the movie. The articulation is basically identical to the previous Kong from the last movie, except that because of the new glove on, the wrist does not rotate on that hand. But other than that, the articulation is the same, which means no new ankle swivel like the last Kong we looked at. He also has a giant version available along with the 13-inch Mega version, both of which have the glove, but sadly the Battle Roar version does not have the glove, as it's just a repaint from the first Kong. As for the Scar King figure, he looks really awesome, and his accessory is his satchel, like in the movie. As for the articulation, it is basically identical to Kong, except that he actually has a torso joint, allowing him to rotate and crunch slightly. So yeah, Scar King looks really nice. You can also get him in the 11-inch scale and the Battle Roar scale. But there was also a 2-pack diorama with him and Kong, exclusive to Walmart, which gives them exclusive paint and more cardboard. Any release is fine, though I say we stick with the 6-inch. As for Shimo, she also looks really nice. And as for her articulation, her head rotates and goes up and down, the jaw opens and closes. She has universal shoulder joints, wrist swivels on the front hands. Back legs are just standard joints, but they also have the paw swivels and the tail rotates. She can also stand up if you'd like her to, which looks kind of goofy, but it's funny. And yeah, she also has a giant variant, as well as a Battle Roar variant like the other monsters. And if you went to Walmart, you could get the diorama display with her and Godzilla. Ending the first wave, we have figures of Suko and Doug. Now, Suko is surprisingly very articulated, having basically the same joints as Kong, but with the waist swivel and even ankle swivels, which is awesome. As for Doug, he has basically the same articulation as Godzilla, that being neck, all the limbs, and his tail can rotate, which is actually a little bit better because Godzilla can't actually rotate at his neck. So yeah, I really recommend this, as this is the only way you can get Doug as an action figure. Before getting on to the second wave, we also got these Titan-sized figures, which are about 60 centimeters tall of just Godzilla and Kong, but they're awesome, no gimmicks, just giant toys. They are probably the best Godzilla figures to get for scale. We got a new Kong with battle axe in this wave. It's mostly a reuse of the one with the glove, but there's a new head and you get a new battle axe, which is a nice addition. Energized Godzilla was also part of this wave, but we already talked about him. The first release was Mothra, who comes with a figure of Jaya, which is nice. As for articulation, it's all in the wings, but the wings can basically move anywhere you'd need them to. Now, they just got reissued as a King of the Monsters variant, which does fix the wing placements, but there was also an 11-inch one, which does include a flight stand, which is nice. There was also the Ultimate Titan Battle Pack, which has her and the 4 main kaiju from the movies, all with new paint job. The other new figure of the wave is Tiamat, and she looks great. She comes with a nice black submarine accessory. As for the articulation, it's really good. The head swivels, jaw opens, universal shoulders, and then a bunch of ball joints in the midsection, allowing her to get a lot of very curved poses. She's really great. Honestly, I'd recommend her over Mothra. Wave 3 has these real-feel Godzilla and Kong figures. Kong is, flocked, and he looks weird, I'm not gonna lie, but the Godzilla is pretty good. He's made of soft rubber, but the main thing is that he actually looks more movie accurate with the paint. As for a new kaiju, we got One Eye, who was released in the Godzilla Kong Emperor packaging, but just got reissued in this new Monsterverse packaging, which is an update on the old Monsterverse box. As for the figure itself, he looks amazing, and the articulation is basically the same as the Scar King figure, except the head actually has slightly more movement up and down. But beyond that, there is nothing else much to talk about with him. He does come with a bone accessory, which is nice, and yeah, I highly recommend him since there's no other option for this guy right now. And lastly, for the Godzilla x Kong time, we got Drowned Viper, which doesn't have any accessories, but does have a removable head according to the back of the box. As for all the articulation, it's literally all ball joints. This guy is perfect for a snake, and he is long too. So yeah, I highly recommend him, especially since, once again, no other options for this kaiju besides this figure. As for current day, first up is the Frostvark from the Monarch TV series. Now, I've never seen this series, but this kaiju looks very interesting, and this looks like a great figure of him. Now, we also got these new 11-inch figures. We got this Kong that he rolls and he punches when you roll him, and a Godzilla from King of the Monsters that does the exact same thing, but he's tail swipes when you roll him. Both of these look very nice, and I'm happy that they're still experimenting with gimmicks. And that's all we have for right now. Now, Playmates has also stated that they will be making new figures for Godzilla Kong Supernova when it comes out. But until then, we'll see what else they have cooking up, as there's still plenty of kaijus from the Monsterverse they can make, along with variants. But yeah, it just goes to show that even though a line can start off really badly, like with the Japanese side, it can improve, and we should always give it a chance to improve. And so yeah, I hope you guys liked this video, and if you haven't given Playmates a shot, I hope you have convinced you to check them out if you're interested in Godzilla and Kaiju. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to the Wikizilla wiki for cataloging all of Playmates' efforts, and to this YouTuber on screen right now, who uploaded all the Showa-era Godzilla video trailer compilations, which made excellent background footage for the video. I thank you both for helping this video become possible. And with all that being said, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you want to see more Godzilla content, as there's plenty of toy lines I can talk about that relate to the Big G himself. And I'll see you all in the next video.